I do have the pleasure of introducing the amazing team behind what you just saw this evening. So let me bring everybody out. First up is David Levine, the SVP of Programming from HBO. Gillian Flynn, the author and writer. And Jean-Marc Vallée, the director. Executive producer and Amy Adams, also known as Camille. Showrunner Marti Noxon. Executive producer Jason Blum. And executive producer Pancho Mansfield. All right, so did everyone enjoy what they just saw? So the writer of Gone Girl, the producer of Get Out, the director of Big Little Lies, and the showrunner of Buffy, and a 5-time Oscar nominee walk into a bar. And I guess that's what you got. I was joking backstage that I said the audience here is so fantastic that you guys just love learning so much granular information about how exactly a project like that comes into being from start to finish. And so I wanted to talk to literally everyone on the panel in sort of how a bill becomes a law of fashion. And I guess that would start with you, Gillian. If you could, take us back. I think this project has been obviously the longest in gestation with you, and everyone would have a different answer about how long it took to get to here.
Well, for me, it took about 12 years because I started writing it when I was a writer at EW. I was working at EW, and I was reading tons and ingesting tons of movies and TV, and what I was really discovering was that there were a lot of stories about men and violence and men and rage and how they handled that, and not much about how women did that and how women handled their anger and their violence and what that looked like, particularly generationally, and particularly in novels. And when you look at what men and violence and anti-heroes look like among men in novels, you call it a novel. And with women, there was nothing there. And particularly at that time, it was a time of a lot of chick lit. It was, a lot of stories about, women who shopped. And their big crisis was, can I find the right shoe and get the right shoe, and then get the right man, and then get the right cosmopolitan. And what I wanted to do was really look at something else. And so I started writing it at nights and weekends, at my job at EW. So I was traveling all around. I was working at Entertainment Weekly, so I was covering movies at the time. So I was on the set of Jackass the movie.
You can see it. You can see it.
Obviously an influence. So I was hanging around Johnny Knoxville in some weird highway in Florida, and then I would go home and on the hotel at night and write sharp objects. And ultimately it got written and got published finally. But really at the time it was a lot of crickets when I was trying to sell it. It was a lot of it's coming into the world. Who's gonna buy it? There's gonna be a bidding war, and there was nothing. It was right. It was let's see your, we were interested in this writer. Let's see her next book, but boy, no one wants to hear this kind of story.
Right, they're sort of what's your comp? What do we compare this to? How do we sell this as it's this meets that? Or
yeah, it was no one wants to hear about women that we can't root for. We can't root for Camille. She's not a likable character. But we did finally get it sold to Crown, which I will stay with forever because they had the balls to buy it. But then it kind of sat around, we got nibbles every once in a while for movies or TV, but they usually wanted to make it a horror film or just a mystery. They weren't very interested in Camille. And then finally we got the correct people together, and I will turn it over to the correct people.
Who was the first correct people?
Right after we did Paranormal Activity, I was ready. I kind of like Gillian with the book. I was ready for the offers to come pouring in, and nothing did except an old colleague of mine by the name of Charles Layton, who ran a company which no longer really exists called Alliance. And we made a deal together, and we made a bunch of our scary movies with him. We made Insidious and Sinister and a handful of others. And he called me one day, and he said, I've read this book, and I love it, and it's not a horror movie, but it's very scary, and we should do it together. And he gave us the book, and we optioned it. I don't know, that was 8 years ago or 7 years ago. And we initially thought it would be a movie, and we toyed around with it being a movie for about a year, and then I got a call from Marti Noxon, and we hadn't met before, and Marti came into my office and basically laid out her case as to why this should be a TV, a limited series, and her case was very compelling, and to her credit, she laid out the case of why it should be a limited series before this type of series was really in vogue. But I thought I really felt like the beauty of the novel was the character and was Camille, and there was no way to we couldn't get our arms around the movie because you really couldn't explain that in 120 minutes. And it was really Marti's idea to do it in over a much longer format. And that began a long journey, and then all of it's like we gathered people along the way. But after we decided to make it into a series, we should talk about the next step. Right now, who was next?
First of all, Marti wrote the script. That was the next script. She wrote the first hour of the script.
Well, yeah, Marti wrote the script, but I'm just talking about in terms of the people on the panel next. So E1. Alliance turned into E1. You were with E1.
Producing the panel.
We can go in chronological order. It's fine. We'll get to everybody.
My fake cigarette and listening to you.
One, two.
Does it work? Okay. So just for clarity,
They don't turn on the studio's mic.
Well, that's exactly right. Now they don't. But I'm the executive at E1 of the studio. The project as a film, then with Marti calling, then Marti writing the script, and Marti, you should chime in here. But the next step really was to put the pieces together. And there are a lot of people up here that obviously this is a lot of talented people, as you can imagine. As you can imagine, in this group, there's as talent as you get. But the reality is there were a lot of other people that helped us put it together. And we had Marti, and then we went and we got Amy. Right? That was the next step.
Amy got us.
Amy, you're up now.
We totally missed Marti. I'm going to Marti.
Yeah, if we could just back up to when Marti,
Marti, yeah.
I'm going to Marti.
So Marti, how did you become aware that the project was in Jason's hands?
I read the book.
Mm-hmm.
I had read Gone Girl, and I thought, who is this twisted woman? I need to know her. And then, then I called my agency and said, who has the rights to Sharp Objects? I want it. And, thinking I could never get it. And then they said, it just so happened that my assistant at the time knew Jason and his wife really well, and so she set it up. And then it actually took about a year and a half of following up because you guys were still trying to set it up as a movie. And my argument, I would just say, is that until like yesterday, I mean, and I still think this is true. You know, movies with complicated female leads don't get the support, and they don't get the attention that they deserve, and they don't get great marketing campaigns often. And if one doesn't perform well, then they just go, well, it doesn't work. So there really isn't a robust. There's independent films, but often those don't get seen very much. So I've sort of spent the last 5 or 6 years of my career taking difficult women projects or making them up and putting them on TV instead. And all of a sudden now is this commercial moment when people are like, would you like to make a show about, you know, X? And I'm like, we already did.
And thank you again to Marty for doing that. Jason, about how long did that meeting take where you were convinced completely that this is what was once a movie in your eyes was now something worth really stretching out and digging in even deeper?
Well, I was convinced actually quite quickly, but because there were lots of moving pieces and pieces at Alliance, and Alliance turned into E1 in the time that this all happened. So we actually were kind of going forward with it as a TV show, if I remember correctly. And then when Alliance became E1, we kind of had to reintroduce it. That's right, as a TV show, because there was pressure again to do it as a movie. So it was like you said, it was a year and a half or a couple of years until everyone who was controlled the rights agreed that it should be a series.
Marty, what was it about the story that you just thought really required more than a filmic treatment? Not to belittle films.
Yeah, no, I mean, films are okay. You know, I jokingly refer to The Bone, a film that I made that's on Netflix. Aw, thank you, you 7 people. And Dietland, and this is my self-harm trilogy, because I, you know, am always too honest, but you know, I've struggled with eating disorders and alcoholism off and on throughout my life, and there was something about the way Camille hid her pain, and then was so intrepid, and she didn't let that stop her, that I found so moving. You know, that there's this female quality where certain generations, I think, have really been taught to keep that stuff hidden and keep it inside. And I was trying to kind of write my way out of a bad place. And Camille, for me, was kind of a guiding light, because I was like, you just need to seek the truth, and maybe that will set you free. So this was sort of like the in it part of the trilogy, you know.
Great. So how many, before you brought it, after the initial meetings with Jason, how many episodes did you write, or was it more of a treatment for a specific number of episodes, or? I wrote
the first episode, the one you saw tonight, and Gillian and I sat down early on, and we were like sisters from another mister, you know. It was crazy. We were like, wow, we both kind of present as cheerleaders, but we're fucked up. And so, you know, I like to write the first episode of anything I do so that people know what the intention is and what the tone is. And so I had really struggled with the voice being in Camille's point of view, because the book is so internal. So, you know, wrote that episode. A lot of you know, Jean-Marc took what was in there and made it 10,000 times better, but you know, that fluid past, present, and you know, maybe even future was my experience of being a drunk. So I was like, it all blends together, and all the ghosts are there all the time. So I wrote that. You know, Gillian and I, she was part of that process of reading it and being cool with it. And then we heard that Amy might be interested in doing TV again, which we did not believe. And they sent it to Amy, and to our great, profound shock and awe, she wanted to do it. So on over to you, Amy.
So Amy, this was your first time executive producing a project.
Yes, it is.
Was that something you had in mind immediately when you decided you wanted to get involved, that you wanted to get involved to that level, or did that sort of? Okay.
Yeah, it's something that I'd been wanting to do, but just had been really busy and really focused on my feature career. I guess it's just one career, but I'd been really, you know, family focused and career focused, and hadn't taken the time to explore what that might look like. So when this presented itself, and that presented itself through the meeting with Marti and Gillian and Jessica, if she's here, she was at that meeting, and it was just a really powerful, I don't know where she is.
The instrumental Jessica Rhodes.
Yeah, Jessica Rhodes is here somewhere. Watch out. She's up here a couple times this week, so come back and hear her talk. But there was just such a camaraderie and such a understanding of what we were going to do that I thought this was a wonderful opportunity to return to television. I mean, television is in such a renaissance right now, and it's a wonderful place to tell stories, and the way that I myself consume television, like, it's a great place to tell stories. And to tell this story especially, because I agree, like, Camille needed to be explored over 8 episodes. To try to do that in 90 minutes to 120 tops would be really tricky.
Yeah, it's weird. I couldn't, unless I was watching, because we're in it, watching it in movie format.
Yeah.
I just couldn't even imagine this. It would just, the best version of this as a movie would not be close to what you guys and what Jean-Marc, what you guys did with this. I really believe that.
So, but it's been a wonderful experience, and something I want to do more of, a lot more of.
Yes, please do. I think everyone's in agreement with that. Now, David, I know you didn't really want to speak too much, but at some point, HBO has to come in. Does HBO come in before Jean-Marc?
Jean-Marc is next.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, good. You really got it down.
Got the order.
Like,
Yes, I lived it.
There was an old lady who swallowed a fly kind of going on. Yes, I had been, do you mind if I introduce?
Please,
Okay.
yes, please.
Jean-Marc and I had been working on a Janis Joplin film together that was taking a really long time, and I really wanted to work with him. And when this came up, I was like, you know, I've been developing this, and if there's someone who understands a totally fucked up woman, I think it's Jean-Marc. So
That's a great introduction.
So there you go. Or at least is interested in them. I don't know if he understands them, but he definitely wants to. So, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Jean-Marc Vallée.
I like the way she's shining right now.
Way shinier than I intended, but it's all right.
Did you see how they reacted when you said the project on Janis Joplin? That, ooh. Yeah, we're sorry. We're sorry. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. So
No, that's all changing right now. After tonight.
and,
Twitter.
So here I am, and the HBO is not there yet, and so I'm directing. No, I'm not directing yet. Big Little Lies, because I think I signed Sharp Objects first. Then, as I was promoting Demolition, finishing Demolition, and I came here 2 years ago to launch Demolition with Fox Searchlight, and so I read the book. And like Marti, I said, who's this twisted writer who wrote that thing? And then Amy wanted to play that character, because you've seen nothing tonight. This is just the beginning. Nothing. Trust me.
I think I've seen quite a bit.
And so I went, my God, yeah, if you're willing to do this, I want to see this. I want to be the first audience, the first one to see this, and yes, I'd like to accompany you and figure this out. And so I went, all right, then I'll direct everything, and it'll be my first TV experience. And then BLL came, and I was supposed to direct only the first episode, or maybe the second one too, and things happened, and then so I did BLL with HBO, and when I met these guys, and they were like wondering where should we go, and then we met a lot of
Yeah, we met in Toronto. Remember, it was the first time to talk about this?
Yes, you came first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you?
I did. That's all right.
Did you come
we met
first,
in
or
Toronto,
Amy
but we
came first?
No, don't worry about it. But anyway, we met in Toronto.
That was really nice.
This feels very important for some reason, and I don't
know.
know why.
Well, it was really set up. It's like you wanted the order. We're giving you the order. Okay, I'm done.
That's good. That's good.
No, Gillian came first because she wrote the book.
And then we went to HBO to KC and David here. So David, please.
Well, what's funny about a network is we have a secret history through all of this, because just like Marty, we read Gone Girl and said, who is the sick and twisted person who wrote that? And sat down with Gillian. We tried to figure out what else she had written, and Dark Places was in development as a feature, and Sharp Objects was set up at Alliance with Jason Blum. And we stalked it for 3 years and waited for Marty to write a script and for Jean-Marc to get attached after Amy got involved as the star, and we patiently waited for them to come to us, and then we bought it aggressively.
Excellent.
So we hung around it for a long time.
So it's a very easy process. For anyone who has an idea out there, it's very easy. So you spent a lot of time talking about Camille being the anchor for the project, but I did want to talk about the way everyone here built Wind Gap. It's such a specific place that no one's been to, but in the 60 minutes we just saw, we feel like we know it incredibly well. How did you all go about creating such an authentic place and such a specific place?
You're from there, Gillian. Why don't you start? I believe in the little old lady who swallowed a fly. You start on this one.
I mean, yeah, I know Wind Gap profoundly. It's in my brain, it's in my head. I could map it out for you. I lived there for quite a while. It's very personal to me. And when we were figuring it out, it was kind of amazing to go down to Georgia, where it was recreated, and to walk around that town that was, Main Street. I knew Main Street. I literally called it Main Street in the book, and it was Main Street, personified. It was very specific. The house that Camille lived in. So the geography and the feel of it was very correct to me. But more importantly, the people and the female matriarchy was correct also. So everything was very very specific and wonderful. So to me it was very strange that a French Canadian could get it correct.
Well,
I don't know. You can explain your magic.
I can do some homework and meet some people and surround myself with great people. And but it's true, when maybe when you're a foreigner, I wanna be as American, if not more American than Americans, and do the right thing and do it right and do it precisely with details. And I got a great producing partner, Nathan Rossi's here tonight too, one of the executive producer. And Grain Feinberg also, and Jessica, the three of them are not on the stage, but they're with us, and they're great partners. And John Pano, production designer, he's the one who first went to Georgia to spot that small town. And it's funny, when I read the book and I read Wind Gap, Missouri, and then I went on Google, and then Wind Gap, Missouri didn't exist, and it was a fiction. And then no, there was a Wind Gap, but in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, that's near.
How did that happen?
Well, that's near. Okay, well, I've never told this before. That that is near a fiance of my ex-fiance of my former fiance of mine's.
Is he single right now?
He is a very handsome, lovely man. I don't know if he is single
just
now.
Just asking.
Yeah.
No reason.
I'll check. But he lives not too far from a Wind Gap, Pennsylvania. We were
That
driving
works-
through
that's-
there.
that
We
checks
were
out for me,
driving
that's
through
fine.
there one time, in Windgap, Pennsylvania, and I thought, what a fucking great name that is.
There you go.
But Jean-Marc, the house, which is a pivotal piece in the, you know, because the town we found in the atmosphere and everything, but the house, I mean, people like to know the details. It was a big challenge for the people finding.
Yeah, we were looking for a Victorian house, and we wanted well, we had to shoot most of the thing in L.A. and it was a challenge to find a house in Georgia, and we couldn't find the whole thing because we had to shoot the interior somewhere in L.A., find the interior in L.A., find a Victorian house in L.A. to shoot the interiors, and shoot the exteriors in Georgia, and it didn't happen. So we found a great house in Northern California, 2 hours north of San Francisco, and we created the interior of that house in LA on stage, and in Georgia we shot the town and the pig farm and some all of the exterior Georgia wind gap scenes, and but John Pano did an amazing job. The house inside, it's all on stage, and to connect the exterior and the interiors seamlessly, so you won't notice that we're on stage. It was done by the DP and the production designer and the crew,
And you built one of the largest screens, isn't it? It's 360 screen on the whole house.
Yeah, we had a big.
Very low budget
yeah,
production.
it was large.
Yeah, and it's funny because coming from, you know, regular TV, but I've learned that it's not television, it's HBO.
Ew.
I have to say that I learned a lot in watching, you know, sort of the movie process come to television, because I kept being like, we can't afford it. Like, we can't. And then Jean-Marc would be like, but what if we could? Yeah. And I was like, we can't. Like, screw this. We can't, you know. And I was ready to compromise, and I watched him just not do that.
See, he's gonna have an aneurysm.
And yeah. But it was I learned a lot from that, because, you know, you were right. It's that house is everything, and being able to connect the inside and the outside, and you know, so I was wrong on that one. I concede.
So do you think that in terms of bringing literature to screen, it sounds like, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but is this sort of limited series kind of the perfect home for this kind of storytelling?
I mean, in my opinion, it's really well suited to get to expand the characters, because novels are so rich. I think, you know, if you go back and read Sharp Objects, the internal monologue of Camille is almost impossible to capture in a 90-minute story. So it's so well suited to this, and I think recently it's changed the way that I look at approaching a character. You know, I'm getting ready to go back to do something on film, and I'm like, oh gosh, how am I going to tell this story in an hour and 20 minutes? But it's really, I think it's sort of the near future of storytelling.
Yeah, I wonder if sometimes people think back on projects they've done and been like, oh wait, I could have done that over 8 episodes? That was never an option before.
Well, yeah, I was thinking, you know, there's this adage which I think is true about movies, and I think the reason is because movies are not long enough. Really, you know, the best books typically haven't made great movies. It's the better movies based on books. The books are actually not so good, and I think there finally is a format where you can have a great book like Gillian wrote and have a great filmed experience, because you just can't put a great book in 120 minutes, and you really can do it in 8 hours. So it's very fun to have this option to be able to do it with all the terrific books in the world.
And it's a real luxury working with HBO, I have to say. There really is for all of us. And yes, Jean-Marc did push it at times on the studio side, but you know, HBO absolutely wants it to be the best that it can be, and they allow it to be that. So
we make so many low budget movies, and there were so many conversations where we'd be like, but what about HBO? And we'd be like, no, HBO wants to do that. And we'd be like, no way, I can't believe it. It was amazing. For us, it was really, we could have made 45 movies with this.
He doesn't know what to say. He really doesn't.
We made 8.
You really did. And it's a great amount of commitment, right, Jean-Marc, in terms of like signing on for a project. Like you get to spend longer than a film, but not exactly 13 seasons of a TV show.
Yeah, just one season is enough, yes. Thank you. Particularly after Big Little Lies, 90 days of shooting, and this one, 90 or 89, so in 20 months, I've shot 180 days, and I'm sorry if I look tired. And I feel great, though. I feel great. It was a tough one, challenging, because of the content, because of, it was dark, it was tough sometimes, it was so challenging for Amy. She felt vulnerable every morning, 2 hours, 3 hours, the makeup, the scars, almost naked in front of a special effects makeup team. It was demanding, and shooting in the heat in Georgia. I mean, if you think this is hot here, over there with the bugs.
They have bugs in.
It was the worst. Burnsville, Georgia. Guys, this place is. What was the question?
When are you going back to Georgia?
Yeah. She has a day, July 11th, Burnsville. It's your day. It's Amy Adams' day.
What?
Go
Really?
back. I loved it there. I'm like, I'm sturdy.
For those of you who haven't seen or read the book, the chapters tend to end on one very significant word. And at the risk of being a corny Barbara Walters, I'd like to close with everyone picking one word to describe their experience working on Sharp Objects, the series.
These always get me, these questions. I always, I don't panic about anything until someone says, what's one word? And I'm like suddenly I have no words in my vocabulary that are
My experience was simple and long. That's my word, long.
Long. Well, Jean-Marc already said buggy.
It's funny you ask, because a journalist asked me the same question, so I'm prepared. I chose a word already. Sharp.
Drop the mic.
That has been taken. That word has been taken in the title.
Gillian wrote it first, we're just saying.
Exactly. That's mine.
David?
Mine's grateful.
Aww.
Mine's darling.
Pancho, what's your word?
I say privileged. It is very rare, and more than once in this process, we've looked at it and say we have some of the most accomplished people in different areas in the business that as accomplished all in their prime. And David and I, who work very closely together, and by the way, a lot of other people involved, Jessica Rhodes, Greg, Nathan, Teresa Kang, thank you very much.
Marcy and Jeremy.
Marcy, Jeremy.
Casey.
But I think that we, more than once, David and I went like, oh my God, look at this. We get to work with these people, with these words, and with this talent. So it was a treat. It was privileged.
Yeah, grateful, privilege. Thanks, Sam.
I should leave it at that because I was going to say bloated, but that feels really cheap now. Jean-Marc made me drink so much O'Doul's. You guys are in episode 5. Just pay attention. I'm like a tick. It's like 97
She's like, I'm
degrees.
so glad I'm wearing
O'Doul's,
a
like take after take after take. O'Doul's.
Yeah, I saw her that day. She was like, thank God I'm wearing this goddamn sundress.
But here's what's great about Jean-Marc, and I digress, but he wanted to see her drink, and I thought I'd be clever and put it in like a Calhoun Day red mug so nobody would tell. I was like, oh, this is going to be water. This is going to be great. And he's like, I can't see the beer. And I was like... But like he's so detail-oriented, and I think that's why you get such wonderful details that are communicated to the audience, because he really does pay attention to everything, and so I'm going to go with grateful as well. I know bloated is more appropriate, but my heart lives in grateful. So.
And I did not mean darling. I was just messing with David because I like to do that. I mean, I don't want to say grateful, but it would be something similar to that, because for a writer, I mean, for someone who started out writing a book, and for anyone who wants to write a book, I always say write a book. You know, for someone to start writing a book, you know, at nights and weekends and not knowing if anyone wanted to read it, and to get to see it, you know, 12 years later on a screen with these people who are so amazing, and to be here, I really do truly, I feel very privileged, and I feel very, very lucky, because it's what you dream about when you start writing and banging around on a typewriter, not knowing if anything is ever going to happen or if anyone's ever going to read it, and you write it for the love of it. And you just hope someone might like it. And to end up here, I feel lucky.
Thank you.
You have something you wanted to close on, Marty?
Bloated.
Bloat? All right.
You know, being a drunk, it was good. No, it was I the same. Like, it's a dream come true. But I would say that sometimes going to these dark places, Gillian, it was actually healing.
Well, thank you so much to everyone on the stage for bringing us Sharp Objects. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's July 8th at 9 is when it's premiering on HBO. So thank you very much.
Thank you.